Now joining us from the 1980 USA men's winning hockey team is, of course, Rob McClanahan, who's kind enough to join us. Rob, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. Happy to be on.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. How do you kind of put it into words with what you watched yesterday? You lived it in 1980 to see a different group of Americans be able to celebrate yesterday. How do you kind of process it?
It was fun to watch. Fun to see how much it meant to them to wear a USA jersey. How proud they were of what they accomplished, and truly how selfless they were as teammates.
I'll tell you, after the game, when Jack Hughes scores that game-winning goal, and he's doing the interview before they get the gold medals and they take pictures, him saying the brotherhood of USA hockey and mentioning people of the past, you know, like your group and other groups, and the buildup it was to get back to this point, that's got to mean something to you, that still all these years later, you have a group here in 2026 talking about the years and years and years that USA hockey has been through, right?
That's great. It's awesome. It's awesome to hear. Hopefully it doesn't take another 46 years for the U.S. to win another gold medal.
Absolutely. What do you think? I have to ask you this just because you knew Herb Brooks for so many years. What do you think he would have said about this group and seeing the way that moment lived out yesterday?
That's a good question. Herbie would have been just as proud as we are. He would have been just as happy as all of my teammates and I were and are. You know, the game has changed so dramatically in the sense that it's so much faster and the players are bigger and the equipment is different and it's much lighter. And so the gear has changed. I think it's changed the goaltending position more than anything else. And I think Herbie's always been a USA. He was always a USA guy. He always loved representing his country.
And clearly, right, I wasn't alive in 1980, and I see the movie Miracle, which is my favorite movie ever. And there's so many iconic scenes in there with Mike Eruzione, you know, who do you play for? The United States of America. And Rizzo years later told me that didn't actually happen, which just totally ripped my heart out. But there is a great scene with you where he challenges you, and we know that was, you know, pretty much spot on when you thought you weren't going to be able to go, and he basically questioned you. How do you kind of relive that memory all those years later?
Never did talk to him about it. But I was very surprised when he came in and challenged me. I'd seen him do it to other players. I'd seen him do it to players at the University of Minnesota. I just never expected him to do it to me. I was injured pretty severely, and he just surprised the heck out of me. And quite honestly, the movie does a good job of that scene, but it was more intense in reality. I actually followed him out of the locker room and into the hallway, and we were screaming at each other out there. Yeah, I was basically saying, you're not going to tell me if I can play. I'll tell you if I can play. The Swedish locker room was right next to ours. And, you know, it's the first period of the first game of the tournament, the day before the opening ceremonies, and they're looking out and they're saying the USA has already lost their marbles. But as I've always said, it's hard to argue with the result.
What I'll compare it to, if you ever got coached by your dad, and let's say your dad is the head coach, the dad could be tougher on his kid and maybe make an example. Do you kind of think of that analogy because you played for him in college, that he was maybe tougher on you guys from Minnesota?
Oh, Herbie was tough on everybody. Herbie treated each player a little differently. He treated Kenny Morrow differently than he treated me. He treated Mark Johnson differently than he treated Steve Kristoff. He treated Jack O'Callahan differently than he treated Billy Baker. But he was hard on all of them. There were times where he got on everybody, and he was alone. It was definitely we versus Herbie.
The magnitude of the moment, it just gets better and better through the years. We've obviously to live through it was so special. What was going on in our country. Then it gets another life of its own in the early 2000s with the movie. Then you guys have that Netflix, special that just came out, and it leads into perfectly us winning gold for the first time since you guys did it. When did you first realize the magnitude of what you guys accomplished in 1980 and how you guys would truly be legends for the rest of your time that you're on this planet?
When we went to the White House the following day, I mean, we knew there was excitement within the town of Lake Placid and you know, throughout the venues, the Olympic venues, but we didn't have any idea the magnitude that it resonated throughout the rest of the country until we went to the White House, and we're going, you know, to meet President Carter, and the streets are lined 10, 15 people deep. That's when it finally dawned on us.
How about right afterwards, like after you guys get that win, what do you recall immediately after the game? Because there's bigger than life moments, and you guys were the people that created those bigger than life moments for us.
I apologize.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Can you repeat that?
Just right after the game, like an hour or two after the game with what you accomplished, just what do you guys remember about that?
After the finish game?
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? Let's go both, because you know, obviously it's talked about before. You guys beat the Soviets. If you don't beat the Finlands, you guys would have taken that to your grave. So how about both those moments right afterwards?
The Soviet game was unbelievable. I'll go back. You know, when Rizzo scored that fourth goal with exactly 10 minutes to go, I mean, to a player, we always say it was the longest 10 minutes of our lives. And after we beat them, it was a euphoric feeling. It was, you know, Herbie says you play him 100 times, we lose 99 of them, but we won the right game. And then I think what a lot of people still don't know is that we had to play another game. Mm-hmm. And had we lost to the Finns, we wouldn't have won a medal. We wouldn't even have gotten a bronze. The Soviets would have won the gold, the Swedes would have won the silver, and the Finns would have won the bronze. So the one thing that Herbie did do is on the Saturday between the Soviet game and when we had to play the Finns on Sunday, we had a practice, and it wasn't a long practice, but it was probably one of the hardest practices of the year. And he just made sure that we stayed on task, that we didn't lose sight of what we had to do. And he never let up. Herbie never let up. And Herbie was prepared for everything. And he made sure that we were prepared for everything.
Wrap it up with Rob McClanahan, who's kind enough to join us today, the day after the USA wins a gold medal in men's hockey, the first time they've done so since his group did it in 1980. For me, this one, as someone that wasn't around for 1980, you look at what did transpire in 2002, getting to a gold medal game against the Canadians and getting beat pretty soundly. Then the heartbreak in 2010, where I thought it was fitting yesterday they won in overtime because the Canadians beat us in overtime in 2010.
That was 4-on-4.
Yeah. And trust me, the Canadians will remind you about it with the way that they've been acted afterwards. And then, losing to them again in 2014, it just makes it so much extra special. It's always special when you win gold, but to finally have that boulder come off your shoulder, knowing that they beat this group, I wouldn't have wanted any other way, honestly.
I could have used a game that wasn't quite so close, and I would have liked to have the ice maybe a little more level. It goes without saying that in a situation like this where you have a one and done, you need a goaltender to keep you in the game. You need a goaltender to give you an opportunity to win the game. The goalie's not going to win the game. He's not by scoring the goal, but a goalie's going to keep you in the game to give you an opportunity, and that's what happened yesterday. And they were resilient. They worked hard. Were they outplayed to a certain degree? Yes. So we were too against the Soviets. But the one thing about hockey, about sport, there's a lot of elements within each respective sport. In the game of hockey, one team can play a lot better than the other and still lose. The U.S. scored more goals. They won the game. Here's what I have a problem with is, and I heard John Cooper had made a complaint of some type about, 3-on-3, we don't play 3-on-3 for the Stanley Cup. That's true. But the evolution of sports, not just in hockey, but in professional sports within baseball, football, basketball, and hockey, is they've changed some rules. And this is an Olympic sport. The Olympic Committee determined that it was going to be a 3-on-3. The Canadian team knew that coming into the tournament. And by the way, they had to play 3-on-3 overtime 2 games prior to that, I think against Czechia, to continue on in the tournament. And, oh, by the way, they happen to have Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid, who are 3 of the best players in the world. So I don't care what he says. They knew the rules. They came in and said, we will abide by that. And that's the way it is.
But let's just be real. With McKinnon, and hey, that game could have gone either way. With Cooper, I think you put it perfectly. It's sour grapes. They're annoyed because we beat them at their game and we have the gold and they got the silver. That's what it is.
Well, the U.S. team didn't make the rules,
Mm-hmm.
right? They didn't make the rules. They just played by them. That's the simple answer. And they can spin it any way they want. Doesn't matter. All I know is that we have another group of U.S. hockey players who are going to join our club as gold medalists.
Did you see any of the videos of your former captain, Mike Eruzione, celebrating and getting hoisted over a player's shoulder?
I saw a little bit of that. I would expect nothing less from Rizzo.
Just the kind of, and hey, your life is going to be synonymous with this. You get asked a lot of the questions that I'm asking you. I get that. And it's something that it will live to you, and it's even going to live, with you, even whenever your time is up on this earth. But to go through reliving some of that stuff again with the guys together for the Netflix, special that just came out, what was that like for you?
It was a lot of fun because when we get together, we don't really talk about the season, the games we played prior to the Olympics. We don't talk about the games during the Olympics. We talk about how's your family, how are your kids, things like that. With the Netflix documentary, it forced us to kind of talk amongst ourselves about certain situations, and it was a lot. It was enjoyable. We just don't do that very often. I'm going to go to a different tangent here. So we have a group chat, obviously, and after the U.S. won yesterday, Davey Christian was in Milan because his nephew, Brock Nelson, was on the team, 3rd-generation gold medalist. And Davey texted us and said, oh, by the way, what do you think of this? My ticket for today was Section 10, Section 10, row 6, seat 23. My uncle and my father were numbers 10 and 6 in 1960.
Oh my
and
God.
I was number 23 in 1980. Got
some signs there.
Unbelievable, right? It's crazy.
That's just wild. Your message to this group, if you could talk to the team yesterday, if they had you on the phone in the locker room, just what would you say to them?
Well, I had the opportunity and the honor of doing so prior to the Four Nations last year. So I've met a lot of them. I don't need to tell them anything. They understand it now. It's a brotherhood. That group of guys played a selfless tournament. And that's truly what it takes. And it's, you hear some of us say, we didn't care who scored. We scored. Rizzo didn't score. Mark Johnson didn't score. We scored. And it was the same way with this team. And that's why they found the success they did. It was, you hear these cliches, all for one and one for all. Well, that was without question was the situation throughout this tournament. And they were on a mission, and they had a goal that they set, and it was a really lofty goal, and they achieved it. And that's so they're part of the club, and they know exactly what the feeling is, and it's just huge amount of pride.
And the way that they celebrated afterwards, it got me. Because if Johnny Gaudreau didn't have his life tragically taken away, he would have been a part of this. He would have had a gold medal around his neck. And in that moment, Johnny Gaudreau,
it was genuine, right? They didn't plan this. It was just genuine. It was a spur of the moment type of situation. And that's what makes the best theater. And these guys, they bought into what Billy wanted to do. They bought into what Mike Sullivan wanted to do. And they're reaping that reward. And to include Johnny Gaudreau's memory and to include his kids and his father, and it just adds to the story, and it's a spectacular ending.
When you realize that the puck went in yesterday, you watching the game, how do you just kind of paint the picture of what was going on in your home or wherever you were watching the game and what's going through your mind?
I jumped up and yelled.
Because
literally,
it reminded me of the Stanley Cup Flyers and Blackhawks when Kane scored the game-winning goal, and no one knew it went in. Yeah. But you then see the players' reaction, and you're like, "Oh my God, the game's over."
I'll tell you what, it was a hell of a play, and Hellebuyck made a save right before that. One of several, obviously. It's that kind of game where was the U.S. outplayed to a certain degree? Sure, they were, but I'm telling you, it only takes one.
You know what, Rob? I'll say, who gives a shit? They won.
It's not who outplays who, and who scores more goals.
Yeah,
that is in essence is the game. And so, and Johnny Harrington, he coached college hockey for years, and he used to say, well, sometimes I coach hockey and sometimes I coach goalie. Mm-hmm. And yesterday's game was goalie.
Yeah,
Hellebuyck gave them the opportunity to win the game. And so just when I saw the goal go in and Jack Hughes, when he lost his teeth, I've been down that road. A quick story on this. I was playing for the Rangers. We were in Philly, and I'm in front of their net, and Paul Holmgren came by and just drilled me. And so I went back to the bench, and Robbie Ftorek is sitting to me, next to me, and I say, Fitzy, is my tooth chipped? He says, no, it's gone. So I went back out in the ice, found my tooth, put it on in a glass of ice, put it back. I was able to put it back in. It died, but I was able to keep it in there for a couple of years till I was done playing. And then I had dental work. But anyway, there's no other athlete that would do that.
Yeah.
If you're a soccer player, they'd be in the hospital for a month. Hockey players what Jack Hughes did exemplifies what hockey players, what they're like, and their makeup.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do.
They're the most genuine athletes that I've ever covered. And hey, everyone has an ego, but the ego is not noticeable a lot of times when you're dealing with hockey players. The last thing I'll ask you, obviously these guys weren't coached by Herb Brooks, so I'm not going to make the coaching comparisons in terms of the level of toughness. I like Mike Sullivan, but he's not getting away with any of the stuff that Herb got away with you guys. When you see Hellebuyck stand on his head, when you see the togetherness of this group, were there moments in this run that, like, when you're watching, you're like, wow, I feel like I'm watching our team from 1980 at all?
Billy Guerin, I know Billy pretty well. Billy, this goes back to the Four Nations, because that's when it really started. The Four Nations was a primer for the Olympic Games, and Billy wanted to use us. He wanted his players to get to know the guys from 1980. Billy will tell you that because of our success, it got him into the game of hockey. And so for us to be able to share that, it's an honor. And Billy just gets it. And everybody on that team jumped on board. They bought into it. And if there's one thing, I will say this about Herbie. The further along he went in his career, especially in the pros, you have to have your best players buy into what the coach is saying. It may not be right, but you have to have your leaders buy in, and everybody else will follow. Well, I'll tell you what, to a man, the 2026 U.S. Men's Olympic Hockey Team bought into what Mike Sullivan and Billy Guerin were putting together, and that's why they found success.
And it gave us all a moment that we could be proud of yesterday and be proud of for years and years to come. Rob McClanahan here with us, 1980 USA hockey men's gold winner. Always great to catch up with you. Appreciate you doing this. Thanks so much.
Happy to do it. Thank you.